But my faves are Kobe White, of course. Kobe White.
He's playing very well right now.
Coming off Eastern Conference Player of the Month for February. Also, Josh Giddey's playing great now too, and Modest Bucelis. So I think those are the three key guys for the Bulls. And if the Bulls, of course, they locked in the play-in now, but I think that if they are playing like this, the way that they've been playing since All-Star break, you don't want to see them in the play-in. Because I was a member of the Seattle Supersonics. We won 63 games. We the number 1 seed. We got beat by the Denver Nuggets, the number 8 seed. I don't know if you guys remember Dikembe Mutombo holding the basketball when they beat us. But this Bulls team reminds me of that Denver team. They don't have nothing to lose. And they got good players. So.
Yeah, and I like the fact that we're young too.
Yeah, we're young.
So really, really young.
So guarantee I'm putting in all this work in the all season. All season, I can dominate all season. Putting in work in the all season. All season. So I can dominate all season. Putting in work in the all season. All season.
Welcome to another episode of the Off-Season Podcast. This is episode 31. And honestly, man, I want to just sit back and just appreciate this moment for us, because I feel like this is like us taking that next step. You know what I mean? Like, we've done a lot of podcasts. It's been 2 years, 31 episodes. We covered a lot of games, but I feel like this is us taking that next step in podcasting in our media platform. So I appreciate both of you all for, blessing the platform. But we have two special guests here, Rich Central, alum, state appearance, runner up, Illinois, flying the line. You've done a lot of great things, drafted to the Hornets, 5th round, great basketball player, 15-year vet. Then we got Phoenix here, one of the best players in the state, everything. He was all city, all state, all Catholic League,
great
so Northwestern commit, didn't get you to the Illini, the following dash, but still great accomplishments. I know you're proud, and you got a lot of accomplishments more to fulfill. But we appreciate you all getting on the platform.
Well, thanks for having us. And anytime people in Chicago, especially like you guys, have platforms, we definitely try to help, because we're all in on Chicago. Born and raised, and we could have lived, and I tell Phoenixers we could live anywhere we wanted to. But we wanted to come back home. And I wanted to raise Phoenix and his brother here. Just like I was raised.
Yep. And that was going to be one of my questions. You came back, a lot of NBA players, you could go be on the beach somewhere in Florida, California, somewhere nice weather, don't have to deal with the cold, but you came back to Chicago. What was that like? Was it solely for the kids? You want them to be raised in Chicago?
Well, I have such, so here's the thing. A lot of people don't, they think I'm from the suburbs, because when I lived the first 10 years of my life, I lived on 82nd and Sangamon. I got my start at Foster Park. If had I stayed in Chicago, or had my parents continued to live on 82nd Street, I probably would have went to Leo, because my grandmother lived on 79th and Sangamon, which is right across the street from Leo.
Okay.
And that bus parking lot right there, that's where my brother and I we used to play. And my parents wanted us to go to a private school, so that's where it was going to be. It was either going to be there, Simeon, or Calumet, one of the other.
Simeon.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would have been the 80s, right? Like going.
Yeah. I would have played with Benji. I would have played with Nick Anderson, Irvin Small, and Rodney Hall, all those guys. So my roots being here in Chicago, I just love Chicago, man. And I've lived, in my NBA career, I lived in Seattle, I lived in Charlotte, I lived in New York. When I played for the Nets, I lived in Miami. None of those places, and New York is great, but none of those places is like Chicago.
Right.
And Chicago has a piece of all of those cities in it. And I just wanted to raise my kids here. My wife is from Chicago as well, on the South Side, 91st and East End. She went to Whitney Young High School. Of course, she went to Northwestern. So, all of our roots are here. So that's why we decided to stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Phoenix, how you feel about you like Chicago? You want to stay here too, or you gonna get up out of here?
Nah, Chicago's a special place. I think no matter what happens, I'll probably have a house in Chicago. And just make sure I'm still around. I mean, Chicago's been a great place for me to grow, and you can't beat Chicago. I mean, athletes, just people in general. It's just a great place.
Do you think that led to like your decision of going to Northwestern? Because Northwestern's not that. It's what, Evanston, Illinois, so not that far out. It's a little close to home.
Yeah, for sure. I think, as you said, it's not that far away. So I could come back to the city and kick it whenever I want, and it's just a great place. All my family members could come up and watch the games. Like it's just a great place, great environment, and you can't beat the school too. So
yeah, when we went to visit Stanford, I was like, man. Well, because of course before we went out there for the visit, that was what, last year.
That was like last year.
I was like, Northwestern. It was between, in my opinion, it was between Northwestern and Iowa State, and a few more schools. But when we went out to Stanford, man, I was like, hey, Phoenix, I ain't never seen nothing like this, man. But to Phoenix's credit, he didn't waver one way or the other. He liked it, but then when we got on the plane, on our way back home, he was like, Dad, I still ain't sold on Stanford. And then as soon as we landed, the coaches from Northwestern called, said, hey, listen, we got some tickets to the Minnesota game. He's like, come on, Dad, let's go to the game. I was like, he going to Northwestern.
Yeah. I actually want to talk about that a little bit of the recruitment process, because I actually seen a video on you when you were talking about when you were making your decision, and the night before you made your decision, you were Michigan State before you went to bed, and when you woke up, you were Illinois, and you wanted to stay home. Obviously, Champagne's a little ways away, but it's still home, Illinois.
Right.
What was the recruitment process like for you? And obviously, your dad is very experienced with being a part of the recruiting process, but it seems like when you felt some type of way about Stanford, you still felt some type of way about where you wanted to go. So, what was like all of that like, visiting schools, but also the decision making process behind all of it?
It was cool. I mean, obviously, you love getting recruited by schools and just going on all the visits. But Northwestern, it was just special. I mean, you could always go to the games. I mean, it's only an hour away. So, I mean, I went to a lot of the games and went on some visits and stuff, watched some practices. It always felt like home, just deep down inside. Iowa State was great. Stanford was great, of course. But Northwestern always felt like home to me, and I feel like it was just the right pick for me too. But Stanford was amazing. Now we're not gonna take anything away from that.
For real.
But, I can see it.
Yeah.
Hey, now I've been on all kind of college visits, man. I have never been on a visit like that.
Yeah, man. It was crazy. Just seeing all the CEOs and just like all the investors. I mean, it was crazy. And then the sky's always blue. Like it's like crazy. It's like a fantasy world, but yeah.
So, when we were out there and the field hockey, the lacrosse, the women's lacrosse team was playing, right? So, I mean, they weren't playing, they were practicing. So when they got done with practice, they have a place at Stanford where all the athletic facilities are and where their training facility is. So after the girls got done practicing, they came out and everybody was suntanning on this one thing.
Oh yeah.
I was like, Phoenix, I looked at Phoenix. I said, hey, man, you see this?
He passed that up.
It was different. It was different,
man. They had like 3 or 4 pools where all of the students were out there swimming and just hanging out, and it was the weather was great, but the one thing though, okay, and I've always been taught this, is you don't buy the sizzle, you buy the steak.
Man, you got some sayings, man.
He's got something.
He's got all the sayings.
It's better to have a bird in hand than 2 in a book.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
I gotta ask him what he meant by that. What does that mean?
A bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush.
Yeah, that's
okay. So I can tell you a story about I almost became a Los Angeles Laker.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I was out in LA, the New Jersey Nets knew that I was out there, and I was about to go to the press conference. Okay, Mitch Kupchak and Kurt Rambis were downstairs in the lobby waiting for me to come over. And then when I go to the elevator, I realized, man, I forgot my cell phone in the hotel room. So I go back in the hotel room. The phone rings, and it's Louis Katz, the owner of the New Jersey Nets. He says, Kendall, we know you're about to go to the press conference, we're prepared to offer you $7 million for 1 year. Now, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
Okay, back then. Today, that's peanuts. Okay. So the Lakers were offering me 2 years, $5.5 million. But they said, listen, Kendall, this is all we can offer you right now because we strapped on the salary cap. But when you come here and we win a couple championships with Shaq and Kobe, then we'll take care of you. See, the bird in the hand was the $7 million. That's guaranteed right now for 1 year. You know, 2 in the bush is the Lakers offer.
Right.
So that's why I took the New Jersey Nets offer. But I always think about if I had gone to the Lakers, I probably could have won 2 championships. You know, so that's what I mean by a bird in the head is literally 2 in the bush.
Okay, cool, got you. Yeah, so I want to talk about so early on for you, your love wasn't basketball. Like you wasn't thinking about basketball early on in your life. You was a boxer, like you like boxing. I saw you reference Walter Payton football, so it was nothing about basketball. But was it the same for you, Phoenix? Like did Phoenix growing up, was it like I know I'm a hoop, my dad hooped, he played in the NBA, I'm gonna be a basketball player, or were you doing something else and came into the game later?
I mean, I was playing a lot of sports. I mean, just I played football, baseball, soccer. I mean, I did it all. A lot of my friends, like in grade school, would play like sports and just we'd play sports of all kinds. And then field day, you know, back in the elementary school days, I mean, it was really great. But I kind of always knew that basketball was gonna be special for me. He harped on it a lot. But yeah, I mean, it was.
You got tennis too.
You
played tennis as well.
Yeah, I use tennis for footwork and all that. But yeah, I mean, he always harped on basketball. I was playing basketball since I was like 2, so I always did that. But yeah, I played a lot of other sports. I mean, I was very interested in playing baseball and football. I played football till I was like 12, 13.
Oh,
so.
You played for a while.
Yeah, so I played for a little while. And tennis till I was like 13 too. So those sports were fun, but I kind of always knew that basketball was going to be the path for me. So
I like what you said. You played like a lot of sports though, because you even mentioned that tennis helped with your footwork.
Yeah,
I think that's the importance of playing it, right? You know, it keeps you in shape for one, keeps you busy, but also you can probably use many different things from other sports that you played into your basketball craft, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, honestly, I wanted him to be. He doesn't know this, but I wanted him to be a tennis player.
Really?
First. No, that's not what. Is that the young word for Ryan? Yeah. But his grandmother, his grandfather, his mother, all tennis players.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was picturing him like another Yannick Noah, you know, somebody like that, you know, because. You know, basketball team sport. I mean, yeah, I want him to play basketball, but I pictured him, you know, being a 6'5" tennis player, winning Wimbledon and things like that. That's when he first started playing tennis. But then when I saw his love for basketball, then I was like, okay, all right, he's a basketball player. So, yeah.
Did you do a lot of traveling with your dad? Like when he was in the NBA, did you go to?
No, so I wasn't born until after his career.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I think he had me while he's like boxing or whatever. So
boxing,
like you know, you have to be. I don't care what anybody says. You have to be wired different to get in the ring and fight somebody. Yeah, I didn't get into the ring, but when I was in college, I went to NIU. I joined a gym, and so I started boxing and I sparred, but I never did like an actual fight. Yeah. But for somebody to just get in the ring, especially a basketball player, to get in the ring, and you got to be wired different to fight. What made you want to do that? I know you.
Well, you know, I was. When I lived in the city when I was a kid, I hated basketball. Didn't want no parts of basketball. You know, I hated watching the games. And that was back during the Norm Van Leer, Jerry Sloan days, Artis Gilmore. But my thing was baseball, football, and boxing. And, you know, I went to a daycare on 83rd and Racine. My mom and dad had us there. And they had boxing there. And I picked it up and I loved it, you know, but, you know, and actually that's where I realized how to deal with bullies, you know, and they had this one guy there that would come to day camp every day, had this mean scowl on his face and everything. And then one day the coach put me in the ring with him to spar and I was terrified, right? So, but when I got in there and I punched the bully a couple times and it's true, if you punch a bully in the mouth, they'll go away. Then I realized not to be afraid anymore, you know, of, guys that, project themselves as tough guys, because the truth comes to you in that ring.
Yeah.
You find out who you are.
Yeah.
And, my love for boxing just grew. That was a time when Sugar Ray Leonard was in the Olympics. I remember him losing to Roberto Duran in Montreal, and me sitting on the porch in my grandmother's house on 79th Street and just crying because he was my, he was my man.
That was like a big thing.
That was a big thing.
Crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, he later on came back in Louisiana and beat Roberto Duran about
the No Mas fight.
The No Mas fight. Yeah, but Sugar Ray Leonard was my guy, and I remember seeing Muhammad Ali when he lived here in Chicago. I saw him up on 79th in Halsted. He was just standing on the corner talking to people. And Muhammad Ali, to me, looked like a giant, man. I mean, he's 6'3", but he looked like he was 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to be like that.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, from in a boxing world, like for fighters, it's completely changed from that. Where you had fighters back then, they were influential and impactful in the communities, and people rallied around them, and they were like leaders. Versus now, it's missing. Like something is missing in boxing. We don't have those type of figures. It's more like money men. Like it's about how much money you have, but we don't really see the fighters in the community and for the people anymore. You know what I mean? So, what do you think happened in the sport of boxing, where even from a fighter aspect of there are no more heavyweights? Like they're not. It isn't dominated by the heavyweights. We see the Terrence Crawfords fighting with Gervonta Davis, the Floyds. We're not watching the heavyweights anymore. So, what do you think happened to the sport of boxing?
Well, I think the sport of boxing got to the point where the best stopped fighting the best. You go back and you look at the four kings, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns. When all those guys fought one another to decide who was the best. We don't have that anymore, and they're trying to form an association now where they force everybody to fight one another. But that's what it is, man. It's all about, it became a business, and it's always been a business, but it became more of a business when, you say, for instance, we have Floyd Mayweather having to wait 3 or 4 or 5 years to fight Manny Pacquiao.
Exactly,
when I was a kid, I'm like, this is insane. Like how
when that fight should have happened.
Manuel Marquez, but then not fighting.
Yeah, and it wasn't Floyd's fault. And I mean, Manny Pacquiao refused to take the drug test.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, I forgot about that.
But when he eventually decided to take the drug test, I mean, it worked out for him because they each made $300 million. But that's what it is. It's about business and the money.
Yeah. I want to take it back a little bit to basketball, and I know we talked about the recruiting process, and you had a good season, a great season at St. Ignatius this past year. We covered you a lot, got a lot of highlights and voiceovers for you. Playing in the Big Ten, like, I know your father played in the Big Ten, went to a Final Four and everything. What are some goals you have immediately for yourself when you get to Northwestern? I know development is a big key, but what's some things that you have set out for yourself?
Probably I just want to be the best player I could be. Obviously, I want to take on point guard role. Just want to be more of a lead guard as far as IQ and just leading a team. I feel like that's the next step in my journey. I feel like I could play the off guard, but I also want to be a dynamic player, more of a combo guard, lead guard if I can. So that's one of my first goals. And then later like down the line, I would say is like just improving every year. I mean, whatever I could do to improve and just be the best player I could be. Like I said, I mean, I want to have those Big Ten Player of the Year, like all the accolades. I want to achieve that down the line and just make sure I'm a great player.
Nice. I know I mentioned we watched you play a lot this season. Me watching you personally, I love your mid-range game a lot. Like being under the rim, just seeing you do your dribbles, pull up mid-range. I feel like a lot of that has gotten away from that in the NBA. I know a lot of it's a three-point game now. I want to ask, what do you think is your greatest attribute as a player?
I would definitely say fast break.
Fast break.
And when I'm in the open floor, I mean, it's hard to stop me. Just as far as like how quick I could get down the floor. I put a lot of pressure on the defense when I'm on the fast break. But also, I would say my mid-range, like you said, I mean, it's been good. always work on that. Of course, got to work on that. I mean, the old heads like him. You
be calling him old head?
Yeah, he either calls me old head or low tech.
Old head fundamental.
Hey, that get you 15 years.
It does. It does.
15, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think one thing I've been working on a lot is my 3-point shot. I think that's been coming along a lot. I remember last year, my junior year, I was like maybe like 25. I shot horrible from 3. But this year I got up to like 35, 36, and I'm hoping to improve that every year. I mean, I've been working on it a lot just over the past few weeks, just making sure I have a 3-point shot because, you know, in this day and age, it's hard to survive without a 3-point shot.
Yeah,
So,
that's like the biggest thing.
Biggest
so,
thing,
I mean, having that, but also getting my handles down too. I can handle the ball real well, so making sure I have that. I think those are my biggest attributes.
Nice.
Yeah, and I feel like the best thing you could have is your dad because he went through the same thing. You know, sophomore year, Iowa, you know, you had the bad shooting performance 0 for 9 for 3.
Yeah.
And, you know, you sat the rest of the season and you went and got a shooting coach and you picked it up the next season. So I just feel like it's important having somebody that could just kind of guide you through that versus having to figure it out on your own. But I kind of want to speak about that because now we see a lot of NBA son, like father-son relationships now. It's a ton of them, even in college now. I didn't even know some guys. I'm like, nah, I didn't even know. But yeah, so how's that how do you all deal with that? Whereas you know that Phoenix is going to Northwestern, and if he aspires to go to the NBA, he gets to the NBA, he's gonna be critiqued, you know, and by colleagues, by people you may know. Like, how do you all handle that or prepare for that type of situation where we see one of the most popular situations, obviously, Stephen A. and LeBron with Bronny James and stuff like that. So is it something where it's like you don't even focus on that, like he's just playing basketball? It's not I'm his dad, Kendall, he's just going out and play, or is it like you have a say and a hand in everything that's going on?
Well, you know, it's been somewhat difficult because, you know, of course, you know, Phoenix used to listen to everything I told him, you know, but now that he's 17, 18 years old now, you know, and you guys know this, growing up, of course, you start to form your own opinions and things like that. So that's the difficult part, you know, and sometimes you guys as young fellas, you know, you say, oh, no, I know it this way, you know, this is the way, you know, which could be true, but you got to understand that the guys that came before you know better, you know, and they know, so they've been down this road. So you got to listen to them. You don't have to take everything that they say and do it, but you got to listen and say, okay, well, maybe he is right about this because it's somebody that has traveled the road before you that already knows. And yeah, the game has changed. And you know, I've had to change my perspective on some aspects of the game as well, you know, but that's the difficult part with Phoenix and I, you know, because I tell him, okay, look, you got to study it this way, you know, and he necessarily doesn't want to do that, you know, and he wants to do it his way, which, you know, he's been doing a good job. I mean, he just over the past couple of days, he's watched The Last Dance a couple times.
I love that documentary.
You know, I think that's the best sports documentary.
I watched it like 15 times over.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because you can get a lot from that documentary. And yesterday I asked him, I was like, hey, what did you learn from The Last Dance this time? He's like, well, I don't know. Yeah, he didn't want to talk about it. So I didn't press him. You know, I didn't talk about it. I've had to learn how to kind of take a step back sometime. Yeah. So, because before I could tell I was getting on his nerve. I still get on his nerve sometimes. Yeah.
But it's good to have that guidance though, right? I have to say, because like you mentioned, you have the experience. You know, you went through the recruitment process, you played in college, you played in the league, you know, went through adversity while you was playing in college, and it's good to that you can give that knowledge back to your son having gone through that. But like growing up, you know, obviously we evolved and become 17, 18. We've been there before. And I do remember, like, my dad was a very big guidance in my life, giving me pointers and everything. And then I remember seeing, he was just like, all right, I kind of got to let you do your own thing. And, you know, some things I can't really teach you. You kind of got to experience it yourself. Maybe bump your head or don't, and you kind of got to learn from it. And it's making a mistake is never a bad thing, right? It's all about how you bounce back from it and how you can learn from it in the future so you don't make that same mistake again. So I think it's a good thing. Like, I love the relationship, the father-son relationship, how fathers are important to guide you through things in life. Some things you just got to learn on your own.
Yeah, like yesterday when Phoenix just started driving. Really, he just started driving. Okay, waited this long to get his driver's license. Yesterday, I didn't say anything. I was just in the passenger side. He ran right into the garage wall, pulling the car there. You know what I mean? So that's
I didn't.
So that's what you mean by bumping your heads. So you got to learn it on your own.
Yeah.
You got to learn. Hey man, I got to stop short of that wall. But he'll learn.
Yeah, but then when you get older, you look back on it and you say like, man, he was right. Cause I do that now. Like my dad, he passed away. But when I was younger, it's hard. But when I was younger, I used to be like, man, you always owe me. Like, man, just let me, but now when in hindsight, it's like, oh, I get it. This is what you was trying to protect me from.
Yep.
This is what you was trying to teach me. Oh, I get it. So now me as a father, I just had a daughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yep. So I'm just like, so I understand now. So I was like, I wish when I was younger, I would have listened,
right.
But it's just in hindsight. So it kind of shapes the man you become, where it's like now I have kids and I understand what you was trying to do. So it's just always, you don't understand until you get there. You know what I mean? It take 30 years to be 30 years old and you're not going to understand until you get there. So I definitely get it. I get it. But it's a great the process of life is it's cool, just looking back on that. But it's definitely cool. But so I wanted to just go back to your career in the NBA. You had some great accomplishments. You hold the record for steals in the game with 11. You had a couple breakout performances. So what went into your your journey in the NBA as far as your development and wanting to be better? Like, because a lot of guys when you get there, it's like I'm here now.
Yeah.
And and you see that because what I learned was I thought that every professional wanted to be a professional and loved the game and cared about the game. But a lot of people, they just there and they enjoy just being in the NBA. But not everybody wants to be the best.
Right.
So what kind of drove you and your mentality to like, I want to be better?
Just my work ethic, and my work ethic doesn't have to do just with basketball. My work ethic is everything I do in life. Like if I work out, I'm gonna work out the hardest I can work out. When I box, I'm gonna put 100% in it. If I'm outside planting bushes, I'm gonna put 100% into it. And the same for school too. I had to work extra hard in school because I had a learning disability when I was younger. So, I had to work harder than everybody else in order just to keep up with them. But because of my hard work, I made the honor roll a couple times. I made a dean's list once in college. And it was just based off of my habits of working hard with everything that I did. And, that transferred over to my NBA career, and you mentioned this earlier, when I got my starting position taken away from me, when I went 0 for 9 from 3 against Iowa, way back in the day, my sophomore year, I decided, look, what? This happened to me, but I'm not going to enter the transfer portal.
I want to talk about that.
But that wasn't the transfer portal back then, But I said, I got to deal with it, and, I came back home and I told my dad, I'm thinking about transferring. And he's like, nah. So you're not transferring.
Can't escape this work, right?
He said, you're going to run from it. He said, you better go down there and be a star amongst stars. I remember his exact words. That's what he said. And man, I went down there in my junior year. I found the shooting coach, which you mentioned earlier. And I put in so much work that summer. By the time I came back for practice in the fall, I felt like I was amongst the best players on the team. And you had Nick Anderson, Kenny Battle, Marcus Liberty that was coming in. Marcus was the #1 player in the nation. And everybody thought that I was just going to sit on the bench. But, I was like, nah, man, I'm going to put in the work. And then, when practice came, it showed.
Yeah.
And the same things happened in my NBA career, man. I just figured, if you work harder than the next person, then your skills are eventually going to get better. You're going to eventually get better. You look at Cooper Flagg now. Mm-hmm. Okay, Cooper Flagg, and I told Phoenix this, when Cooper Flagg last year, I said, Phoenix, Cooper Flagg's #1 his #1 trait and his gift is that he plays harder than everybody else. Okay. And now his skill level is starting to come along with that. I saw it last night when he played against Houston. Mm-hmm. His skill level just improved greatly because he works hard, and that's half the game, man. If you work harder than everybody else, and nothing. And I tell Phoenix this all the time, nothing wants to stay in front of something that's relentless. Mm-hmm.
Not a phrase.
Yeah, but it's true. okay? If you relentless, look at Allen Iverson when he played. He was relentless, man. He's always coming, always coming.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way Russell Westbrook is. That's the way Allen Iverson is. That's the way Cooper Flagg has been. That's the way D Rose was. The way MJ was. Relentless.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of guys don't want to stand up to that. You look at, like when we talked about boxing earlier, you look at Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was relentless.
Yeah, keep coming at you.
Keep coming at
you.
you.
Got tired.
And if you do that in basketball, the game is won.
Yeah.
Because don't nobody want to stand in front of that.
Yeah, and I feel like the same just is true to life, like being relentless. And that's something that I go about, like even with us podcasting, is like being relentless, always posting, always studying, always, you know what I mean? People think that in this world it's just easy. You just post something and you just viral overnight. It don't work that way. Like this is a process.
Behind everything.
It's
you got
thousands and thousands of hours of us studying like every day. We work jobs. We don't do this full time.
Right.
So I was just telling, Tom, like, hey, I worked 14 hours yesterday, got home 1 o'clock in the morning, went to bed, woke up at 6 a.m. We're here doing the podcast now. Like, it's a certain sacrifice that you have to, you have to make if you want to be successful.
Right.
And that's with anything. So I kind of think in our society, it's kind of gotten soft where that relentless mentality isn't instilled. You know what I mean? It's kind of just, if it happens, it happens. It's not really relentless.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, your father was like, no, you're not leaving. You're going to go there and you're going to fight and be a star.
Yeah.
Versus now, it was 1,100 players in the transfer portal for basketball, 2,000 in it for football. All of you all don't have a bad situation. All of you all I understand that transferring, it has its place, but not for 4,000 athletes. No, you're just doing it just because you may want drop an uncomfortable coach sit you down. I'm transferring. I don't like this dude. I'm transferring. I didn't get the NIL money, which you should be getting paid. I'm not saying nothing wrong with that, but I'm out of here. You know, any little thing just to move around, which is just like I think that's why everything is watered down. And I wouldn't say I'm like. I just have the old head mentality where it's like, no, we gonna fight, we gonna be relentless, we gonna stick with it. I'm gonna die by this. Like I'm not running, but everything else is just like it is boxing, basketball, football, all these guys are just, that's why everybody be mad.
No, yeah.
So
you're 100% right, man. Because like say for instance, if you get married, with all these guys that's in the transfer portal, they go from school to school. I know guys that have been to 4 different schools in 4 different years. When you get married, are you gonna go get married again?
Exactly.
Every year, you gonna get a different wife.
Yeah.
When times are tough, you can't do that, man. Because you're running from life, basically.
Yeah. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
There you go.
That's
for sure. But I think what you were saying about working hard and hard work. I just want to go back because we say this a lot of time. We have many different guests on. And we talk about this a lot. Being in the situation that you are is not by accident. It's work behind it, right? So even when you think of Phoenix, like Northwestern didn't just come in your lap. It was work behind actually playing well and development and everything like that. You mentioned your junior year, you didn't shoot well from the 3, and then you wanted to come back in your senior year and shoot well from the 3. But that took work behind it. You know what I mean? And it's obviously your father has the experience and knows, how to help out with that. But the hard work is like the most important when it comes to anything, whether it's sports, whether you said it was planting flowers or whatever, anything. And that was something my dad instilled in me. I remember when I was a kid, like his biggest thing was that he worked 2 jobs, but his biggest thing is that all I want to do is come home to a clean house. And I don't want to see no garbage in the can. I don't want to see no dishes. I don't want your mama doing the dishes and stuff. I don't want to see a crumb on the table. But his idea of it was that don't have ask anything. You know what I mean? And whether it's school, whether it's sports, whether it's just doing chores, because eventually you're going to carry that into your adulthood and your life, and everything that you do, you're going to work hard at. Right. But if you half-ass in one thing and then this thing you care about in another thing, like the hard work goes into every aspect of life, and it kind of gets you into where you need to be. You know
how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah, how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you practice is how you play. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, Phoenix. So I know you're going into Northwestern. What major did you decide on a major yet?
I'm thinking about doing communications.
Communications,
nice.
Okay.
Something along what my dad does.
Okay.
I like that stuff, broadcasting and just being an analyst. That seems fun to me. So
yeah, definitely, and it's a huge market for it now.
It is
a huge market, man.
Yeah, because you can have your own platform.
You could, exactly. And that's what I love the most about it. Is just like you kind of could take things into your own hands. With how do you feel about the players having it though? Like I guess NBA players, NFL players who are like in season and then they get on a podcast. Like.
Well, I mean, they're entitled to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
I don't agree with, like you have some NBA players that have podcasts during the season.
Yeah.
You know, after every game, they're doing their podcast and everything. Yeah. I think they should wait until after the season.
That's what I think.
To do their thing, you know, because, you know, during the season, you're supposed to be playing ball, concentrating on that. You're not supposed to be, you know, looking at other players or other topics. You got to be focused on the game, you know, to do your best. And, you know, you look at, you know, some players, I think sometimes, you know, it affects what they do on the floor when you're constantly doing podcasts and everything, trying to look at the comments and the reviews and everything when you're supposed to be focused on the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so for training, Phoenix, when did you start, when did you know that Phoenix was gonna be that he had it? Because obviously at some point you have to see okay, he has the potential to go and be really good. When do you think that point was, when he started playing basketball and taking it serious and he has a chance to go?
When he was about 7 or 8.
Okay.
You know, I knew.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I could just tell by the way he moved and how everything came natural to him. And, you know, the great Teddy Atlas, who's a boxing trainer, former trainer Mike Tyson, used to say this all the time. He was like, you know, you can tell the great ones when they do something and you ask them, how did they do it? And they say, I don't know, I just did it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I used to ask him. I was like, how you do that? And he goes, I don't know, I just did it. You know, that's when I knew. So, you know, and he's just touched, he's just touched a little bit of what he, in my opinion, can eventually become the tip of the iceberg, you know, and the light bulb is starting to go off now, but when the light bulb completely goes off, I think he's going to be, you know, a great player. I think he's going to be, and I tell him this all the time. I say, you're going to be Russell Westbrook with Steph Curry's jump shot.
You know?
Crazy combination.
Yeah, crazy combination. So, I remember we was talking about it because we you know, obviously we have the podcast and we talk about a lot of the high school players in the area, and there was a few players that we saw this season. We was like, man, it just looks like they got like a college ready game. Some of them even NBA ready game. Yeah. And one thing we kept talking about was your mid range, and we talked about a few other players. But yeah, I mean, like, from my opinion of what I've seen you play a lot of games this year, and for what I can see, I'm like you said, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Like once you get that development behind it and you start learning your body better and everything, and then you get that college experience when you playing with a lot of the top dogs, that they was top dogs in their state or whatever, I think it's gonna be an amazing thing to see. Like when it gets to that point, you know, it may not happen the freshman season, it may not happen the sophomore season, but it's time. Like it doesn't need to be, your process does not need to be rushed in comparison to anybody else. It's your process, you know what I mean? You may learn it quicker than somebody, or you may take a little bit more time to develop. But I know, like, I could just watch the game and I can see, I'm like, oh, it's definitely gonna get there once it gets like polished a little bit. Because playing in high school, obviously a little bit of amateur, but and when you get to college, I'm excited to see it really for real.
We definitely gonna have to pull up to some games.
Yeah, definitely.
So you still playing any at all? You still
no.
You don't run a little bit, man?
No, not at all. I rebound very well now. You know, I rebound, I pass real well. Because you know, we were at the gym yesterday, and you know, I was rebounding. You know, he shoots. We do the Caitlin Clark workout, 300 shots a day, and then we chart how many he makes each day. And you know, I rebound all of those. So you know, I don't shoot anymore. I can't do it anymore like I used to.
Man, so at what point, like, were y'all playing one-on-ones?
Yeah, a couple years back is when I couldn't beat him.
You couldn't beat him on one?
No, yeah. So I just hung it up altogether. You know, you know, we got guys that played ball when in my era. We got the 50 and over league and everything, but you know, I don't even want to play in the 50 and over league, man. You know, when I like watching. Like I like watching all the top kids in the state. You know, a lot of the top kids in the state, like, you know, Alex Austin, Noah Mister. Who else?
Devin
Cleveland, Marcos Gonzalez, all those kids. I watched these kids ever since they little. Yeah. You know, so I enjoy actually watching other games. And Phoenix sometimes comes in the room, Dad, why are you watching that game? I was like, because I'm a basketball junkie, man. Yeah. You know, I like watching the game.
Call yourself a purist, basketball.
A purist, man. So, you know, it's you know, because once you're a basketball lifer, man, it doesn't ever leave you. You know.
Yeah, I love watching the high school games, especially in Chicago. We was talking about it. I'm like, I don't know, because we wasn't. I wouldn't say over the last few years we we wasn't watching high school basketball heavy, but this past year and a half, we've gotten really into it and started learning like all the players and stuff all over again. And I just remember being in high school, we would see like Jabari Parker and everybody, Jaleel and all of them. And this season felt like it was almost a reminiscence of when I was in high school. It was just a lot going on, good teams being good teams, and it was like it was live for for a while. You know, Rich Township had a very good season. They were the only team that gave Kenwood Academy 2 losses. They're 2 losses. You know what I mean? Or when you think about the conference they play in, they played Bloom. They lost to Bloom twice. Then they beat Kankakee twice. Then Kankakee beat Bloom twice. And it's like, crazy. You know what I'm saying? So and then you and then the Catholic League, you know, a lot of them beating up on each other, like just like football. Same thing with basketball. And it always just felt like, wow, it's always something happen, almost like it's like college basketball, and almost like high school basketball. To me, it felt this year was almost like the new college basketball. You know what I mean? And because obviously the kids are still developing, but like you said, there's a lot of top players in the state that's amazing to watch, and I love going to the games. I love seeing, love getting the highlights, and then bringing it into the fold the girls basketball. I don't think we could talk about that enough. I wish Whitney Young and the kid with that rivalry was insane. They played 3 or 4 times this year, and shout out to Kenwood Academy girls. They won state, but even watching that rivalry and you know Destiny Jackson going up against a lot of the Kenwood Academy girls is like this is battle. Like this is crazy. Like I feel like we at the early stages of what this could potentially like grow into with the development in the game expansion into the high school sports. I think it's going to be a great thing to see for sure.
For sure. And that's our mission for like this platform is like that's why we want to get it like make it as popular as we can, because if we could highlight all of these teams and players, because I feel like for basketball, Illinois gets the respect, but for football, I'm a football guy. So I wasn't following high school basketball. It was all football. As soon as I graduated out of college, I started coaching right away at our old high school. So I just I'll be like, man, if we could grow this platform big enough where like the nation knows about these kids from Illinois and football and basketball, and you know, get the girls, because the girls need more coverage for basketball in high school. So that's just like you said, this year was crazy with the amount of players. We got nationally ranked players from ESPN Top 100 there. Davion Thompson, guys are at state camps, and you know what I mean. So it's just great, a lot of great things happening. We just want to cover everything, you know.
You guys on the right track. You guys are doing the right thing, man.
Appreciate it.
And you know when we beat Bennett earlier in the Thanksgiving tournament for the championship, I told Phoenix, I was like, we just beat the best team in the state. And then he was like, you think they're the best team in the state? I was like, yeah. I said, those guys are the best team in the state. I said, they may lose a couple. I said, but you watch. And they end up winning the state championship. You know, and that's why I thought, I was like, shoot, if we can beat Bennett, you know, St. Ignatius, I mean, shoot, we can beat anybody. You know, and, you know, unfortunately for us, it ended at Simeon, but I mean, we took Simeon to overtime. You know, and if he had done the Hezzy pull, if he had done the Hezzy pull like I told him to do, we would have beat Simeon in the state.
But I feel like you all win in a lot of games like that this season. I know the game that I came to that went into overtime was the DePaul College Prep game, and that game was a back and forth. And I want to say that I think that's also an attribute about yourself that I don't think you mentioned, is that finishing the game, because that game, you know, it's. You would think that it was over, and then, you know, you hit a couple threes, you got them back, and of course with a lot of your teammates as well. But even like finishing that game, you made it fell short in the game, but it was a battle through the whole game. And DePaul College Prep, that's also one of the top teams in the state. What they were class 3A, and they won 3-piece state. 3-time state champion.
Next year though, that'll be interesting.
They were tough.
So I think it's a good thing. You played against the best, and you know you was relentless against the best, and some of them you won, like against Bennett Academy early in the season, but then some of you may have fell short. But I mean, I think that's a good thing to see, is just a good thing to display of how you finish the games as well. I think that's a really good attribute about yourself too.
No, that's the truth, man.
Yeah. So I want to take it like to the NBA. Who are some guys that y'all like, you know, like watching in the NBA? Obviously, you watch a lot of games.
Yeah, I watch
some guys that y'all like watching.
Zach. I've always liked Zach and like how he plays. I mean, he's developed a 3-point shot. He's a sniper. And of course, his athleticism. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, after his torn ACL, I think in his Wolves days, he came to Chicago and he somehow got more athleticism. So, I mean, I've always loved watching him. And then a new person I've kind of started to watch is Ant. Ant's been crazy. I mean,
athleticism is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, his athleticism. He's developed a 3-point shot. He's always had that mid range, and he's just a great competitor and just a great player in general. So I'm hoping he could get over the hump as far as like playoffs and everything. So
yeah.
Man, I don't know whether he's gonna be able to get over the hump without Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah,
I was surprised to see that trade happen this offseason.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know why they did that, but my faves are Kobe White, of course. Kobe White.
He's playing very well right now.
Coming off Eastern Conference Player of the Month for February. Also, Josh Giddey's playing great now too, and Modest Bucelis. So I think those are the three key guys for the Bulls. And if the Bulls, of course, they locked in the play-in now, but I think that if they are playing like this, the way they've been playing since All-Star break, you don't want to see them in the play-in. Because I was a member of the Seattle Supersonics. We won 63 games. We the number 1 seed. We got beat by the Denver Nuggets, the number 8 seed. I don't know if you guys remember Dikembe Mutombo holding the basketball when they beat us. But this Bulls team reminds me of that Denver team. They don't have nothing to lose. And they got good players. So.
Yeah, and I like the fact that we're young too.
Yeah,
we're
young.
So really young. But yeah, I mean, the Bulls have. I'll be honest. Like going into this season and watching the Bulls, I didn't know kind of how to feel because I didn't know what sense of direction we were trying to go in. You know what I mean? And then after because we come off years of not making moves at the trade deadline, right? And then this past season we made moves to dish off Zach, and then as well as get our draft pick back, the first round one. And then for a while it's like, all right, so are we trying to rebuild? Obviously that is the goal, but are we trying to tank a little bit? Like, what are we trying to do? And then the way they've been playing recently is like,
it's hard to tank.
Like it's like it's now it's like you can see it now. You're like, all right, now we just need maybe a piece here, a piece there, and they're young guys that can grow with each other and mold into a team that can be very scary to see. Like you see, like in the play-in, but even if they get into the playoffs, it's like that might be something scary to see too.
No, it is, man. Look, get Derek Queen. Move up in the draft, get Derek Queen, and when you get that kid, you're ready to roll with all the pieces you got. So.
Yeah, well, I hope it happens. I hope we see some winning, man, because y'all got to experience the glory days of Chicago, the Bears winning in the 80s, the Bulls in the 90s. We haven't experienced nothing in Chicago, so hopefully the Bears and the Bulls come around and we get some championships. We get to celebrate, go to some parades downtown.
That would be great.
I'll be jealous, man, watching all the old videos. So I'm like, man, we can't get nothing. We get the best thing we had was Derrick Rose. You know what I mean?
I love, man. That was the greatest time of watching basketball in my life. I think I was in middle school when he was winning MVPs and stuff, and that was the greatest. Like I remember like just coming home from like practice and stuff, and like, all right, Bulls is on already. I already missed like 30 minutes of the game. Man, and I think at that time I wasn't missing a game, watching. And it was obviously a lot of it was because of Derrick Rose, but then even the players that with him, like Jakeem Noah, Taj Gibson, and I think that was the time Carlos Boozer was there. That was when we had that bench mob like crazy. Ronnie Brewer, a bunch of people that I'm obviously forgetting the name, CJ Watson, and I remember that era of the Bulls I loved watching it. And then we got a little glimpse of that again when we got DeMar DeRozan and then Lonzo Ball, and we were sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference before Lonzo went down. And I will stand on this to this day. I think if he never gotten hurt, because he was like that glue guy, right?
Yeah.
He was the guy that kind of made the offense flow in the way it did, but then also on the defensive end, kind of got us like good on defense as well. And I felt once he went down, it was kind of like the glue piece went away and we became a completely different team. Like we became, it was a completely different identity for us. And I still believe if he never gets hurt, that team would have been scary to see because we already had the base core, with the guys that we had at the time. And then imagine adding on to that. I thought, man, you can only imagine, right?
No, but you're 100% right about that. They would have done some special things with D Rose healthy. I think they would have won a championship. And then with Lonzo Ball getting hurt, I mean, that derailed them again. But now they got back on track.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the future.
And we'll see what happens. But I got a question for you, Phoenix. So, okay, you get to Northwestern, great career. Going to the NBA, you're projected to get drafted. Where would you love to be? Like, what city would you love to play for? What organization do you think, like, man, I would love to play there?
LA.
LA, can't go wrong with. I got to get back to Stanford.
That's my first time hearing this.
But obviously Chicago, hometown team. I mean, nothing beats that. I mean, see Derrick Rose, Modest Buzelis, like, I mean, it's crazy. Just to see all that happen. Even Taylor Horton-Tucker. Just a lot of Chicago kids.
We
do got a lot of
coming back.
Io,
yeah. But as far as like outside of Chicago and LA, probably I would say Miami. Yeah, Miami for sure. All the vacations.
All the big market warm. Hey, I don't blame you, man. I love Chicago, but I hate the cold, and I don't care how many years I lived here. I never get used to it. I walk out the house like, oh, I just want to be somewhere warm, 60, 70 base, but it's a reflection of life because everything is not always sunny. You know what I mean? So it allows you to slow down. Like the winter when it gets cold, you in the house, it just slows things down. In those hot states, you always running, you always something to do. So I get it. I appreciate the cold, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
No, I hear you, man.
But for you, Kendall, if you had to build a starting five with the best players that you've played with in your life, it could be high school, college, NBA. Who would make that team?
Oh, Rod Strickland at the point guard, Larry Johnson at the power forward, me at the two guard, Alonzo Mourning at center, and I'd take Detlef Shrimp at the small forward.
Shrimp. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That would be my starting five. That's hard to beat that starting five right there.
Yeah.
So, and you being in the NBA, like, what was like somebody that was like your toughest battle? I guess toughest battle or best player you seen play?
Oh, you know who that is? That's MJ.
Yeah.
That's Michael Jordan.
MJ the GOAT.
He is, and the reason why he's the GOAT. And look, I'm sure you guys have seen, where I've gone down and asked every executive if it was LeBron and MJ in the draft in their prime, who would you take? Not one of those guys said LeBron James. Okay, they take MJ. And, this is from the NBA executives. It's not from podcasters or ex-NBA players or people, regular fans giving their opinions. It's from the guys that make the decisions. Okay. Also, I believe that where I come from, if you haven't done what that guy did or better, you're not greater than him. Okay? You're just not.
I don't think Phoenix agrees.
I agree, but don't get him started with this. He'll go on for hours and hours.
So how can I be greater than you if I didn't do what you did?
Right.
You played a lot longer than me, but I did all this stuff you didn't do.
Yeah.
And that's not taking anything away from LeBron. LeBron is one of the greatest of all time. I got him number 3.
Well, you got 2.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I thought you were gonna say Kobe.
No. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest player of all time. Michael Jordan is the greatest NBA player of all time. But if you go back and you look at Kareem's high school, college, pro, nobody matches up with him. Nobody. Okay, so that's case closed. But the greatest NBA player is MJ.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit because I know a lot of times the people make the LeBron argument in the sense of, Jordan played in a different era and LeBron played in some people will argue that LeBron played in the harder era, right? But then you got people arguing to make a case for LeBron is what I'm getting at. What do you think about the different eras of the 90s compared to the era that LeBron played in?
Totally different. I mean, the era of today was constructed so that you promote more scoring. You take the physicality out of the game, you take away hand checking, you take away the fouls, which, the flagrant fouls of today were just a hard foul in the 90s. I mean, you just had to deal with it, and that's the difference. I mean, you allow players to travel, you give all the advantage, you give all the advantages to the offensive player, take it away from the defensive player, and now they can score at will. That's why you see guys scoring 60, 70 points.
And I think the same for like NFL too, like football, as far as some of those hits, certain blocks being taken out. It kind of caters to high scoring games. You want deep passing a lot of passes. So I mean, I think that's just the nature of sports and entertainment. Like he want to be. We're not entertained by what we should be entertained by. I feel like I think in the 80s, 90s. That's entertaining to me. I would go back and I would watch them be physical and play hard and stuff like that. And now just to see people run down and transition, jacking up threes, I don't really care to see that. So do you think there's a world where maybe some of that stuff comes back to the NBA where they allow hand checking or harder fouls? Because even we just saw Detroit and I think Minnesota get into that scuffle. It's like, all right, what y'all scuffling for? Like get rid of that. Like let's hard foul now. Let's play hard now. But do you think that it kind of conflicts with anything as far as allowing players to be physical and maybe let them fight? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that some of the rules will be reinstituted. Like I believe that the hand checking and more physical play will be allowed back to give the defensive guy a fair way to play the offensive players. Because without it, I mean, you pretty much at the offense's mercy, especially with the way they let you carry the basketball, take 8 or 9 steps. And things like that. It's just difficult to guard somebody. The NBA players are already great. Now you're going to give them even more of an advantage. So yeah, and viewership is down. We know that, and it's because of all of the 3-point shooting, all of the non-defense that's being played. People want to see guys on the even playing field, and that's what it's from. Guys, we gotta wrap up.
Okay. All right. Well, you could close it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, we appreciate you all sitting down. It was a great conversation. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. Just being patient and just allowing us to have you all on the platform and highlight your story, highlight your accomplishments. We definitely gonna be following you, Phoenix, going to Northwestern and off into your career, and obviously you, Kendall, being an analyst and broadcasting, we'll definitely be seeing you around a lot. So we'll just close it off. Like, is anything coming up that you guys want to promote or talk about, or is anything that you don't want people to know?
No, I mean we're just working behind the scenes. Phoenix is preparing for his freshman year. I want to say thank you to you guys for having us on. We watch your pod all the time. We follow all of your socials all the time, and we appreciate you guys following Chicago basketball, giving these kids a opportunity to be seen. And I think it's great what you guys are doing.
Appreciate it.
I would just say stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Definitely, we will.
All right, yep. So this is Off-Season Podcast, episode 31, featuring Kendall and Phoenix Gill. You all stay tapped into the Off-Season. Subscribe to YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all of the social media platforms. Like I said, it's episode 31 of Off-Season Podcast, and we out.
Yes, sir.
All right, fellas.